Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Forbidden Land podcast. Today I'm continuing my ongoing series leading up to the primary in Georgia about the Georgia elections. This episode will be about the lieutenant governor race. I was going to lop in the attorney general race, but I think I might save that one until the primary is over. So today we're just going to be doing the lieutenant governor. So let's go over who all the candidates are. Now, when I was researching this, I came across some very interesting stuff that was unique from the governor's race and from the Senate race, in that the candidates that are running are strangely aligned on one particular issue that I find really strange, that I didn't see with the other candidates in the other races. Especially the governor's one, which you would have thought I would see this with the governor's one. But you might be wondering, like, why do we care about the lieutenant governor's primary? You know, why does that matter? And it's because the lieutenant governor is very influential over the Georgia State Senate. And the lieutenant governor in general is a very influential figure. I'm sure people remember in the aftermath of the 2020 election that Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan was all over TV talking about the election. He became Trump's public enemy number 2 right after Brad Raffensperger. And, you know, the lieutenant governor plays a pretty significant role in state politics. So it is an important job to have. I mean, like I said, they're going to have massive influence over the Georgia State Senate. So, you know, if it's a Democrat over a Republican Georgia State Senate, we can probably try to get a lot done. So there's a long field in the Republican race, as usual, that we've seen with these races. The Democrat side has one guy. So I'm going to start with the Democrat just to get him out of the way. The Democrat is Josh McLaurin. He's a state senator from District 14. And he's been in the state Senate for 2 years now, or 3 years now, sorry, and is about, you know, a decent ways into his term. He's endorsed by Rua Roman, which, you know, big dub for me. As you might remember, I endorsed her as my pick in the governor's race. And then she dropped out, so I have changed my endorsement to Jason Esteves. And, yeah, so, you know, that's a big deal that he's endorsed by a, you know, Georgia representative that I do indeed like. I believe she's now running for state senate in her district, so pretty cool stuff. You know, I'm glad that she's endorsing him, and that gives me a lot of confidence in this guy. I went through his funding, because I realized I should start doing that now. I went through his FEC filings, and I didn't see anything that stood out in particular, nothing that might involve Israel, perhaps. And that's kind of what I was looking for. But even in general, like, all of his donors are, like, his own PAC and other, like, Georgia representatives' PACs, like Rua Roman's, like, candidacy organization donated money to his campaign. So I didn't see anything that really stood out. But there's something weird about him that I discovered when I was researching him. Is that he's former roommates at Yale Law School with J.D. Vance, the vice president. So I was like, what? What a weird connection. But then I find out he's not just former roommates with J.D. Vance. If you recall, before Trump picked J.D. Vance as his VP pick, when J.D. Vance was running for Senate in Ohio, and the president endorsed him, text conversations came out where it showed J.D. Vance calling Trump America's Hitler, amongst other scathing criticism of the president. Well, if you're wondering who leaked those conversations, it was Josh McLaurin. So he leaked it. He leaked these conversations. These texts were with him. Vance sent them to him. Very weird connection here. But overall, I like this guy. He wants to expand Medicaid. Pretty nice. I like an expansion of healthcare subsidies in the state. I hope he goes the full distance and supports a public option. People forget you can lobby your state representatives. If you live in a particularly blue state, you can lobby your state representatives to do state-funded healthcare. We don't have to wait around for the federal government to do it. Let's play the Republican ball game. Let's start getting the states to start doing some shit. Like California's doing right now. So yeah, he expands. He supports expanding Medicaid, which is a good step in the right direction. He wants to overturn the heartbeat law, which is the law that stipulates you can't have an abortion after 6 weeks, or when the heartbeat starts. You know, as complicated and complex as that might be, that's how lawmakers have deemed it. That 6 weeks is the cutoff for an abortion in the state of Georgia, and because of the recent ruling for abortion rights in the Supreme Court, the law is back on the books. So, he supports overturning it. I'm all for that. That law is draconian. It's cruel. It's disgusting. It's just cruel and unusual punishment for women that are in vulnerable spots. And, you know, you don't see any part of that bill punishing the dude in that equation. So, because if they put that in the bill, all of a sudden all the men in this state would be against it. So, they knew what they were doing when they passed the bill the way that they did it. And it's disgusting that we even have a restriction of women's health care the way that we do. So I'm glad he's pro-choice. He wants to bring affordable housing to the state and wants to ban out-of-state corporations from owning homes. Now, I think this doesn't go far enough. I think any corporation owning residential homes is a bit weird. I think it's different if the corporation owns the homes for their employees, like employee housing. That's different. If a company wants to do that, then whatever. But there should be limits on that too. If a corporation is just buying up real estate for an investment or to profit off of it for rental purposes, I'm absolutely disgusted by that. And it's what's led to the current housing crisis that we're in right now. And yeah, I think it's pretty good that this guy wants to ban out-of-state corporations from owning homes, but I think he should go a little bit further and ban in-state corporations from owning homes as well, unless it's under very specific circumstances. Now, that's not to say that he's pro-corporation, by the way. He is against right-to-work laws, which is good. That paves the way for unions to be formed. If you're wondering, right-to-work laws are very anti-union. They basically say that you have the right to work, and this is the part that people don't realize because they only read the name of the law, they don't read the text of the law, is that it essentially is designed to be a thing where they're saying the union can't tell you can't work in like a strike. So it basically gives corporations the unlimited power to fire you over anything they please. They can choose any reason they want, pretty much, legally, any reason they want to just get rid of you. If they just simply don't like you anymore and they think they just don't want you there anymore, they could just fire you for that. But it's essentially a law that tells unions that they can't prevent people from working. So it makes labor strikes harder. It makes labor strikes fireable under those types of laws. Right to work laws are very anti-union, so I'm glad that he's against right to work laws. So overall, not a bad candidate. Definitely like the one I've had the most good stuff to say, I think. Like who's clearly going to be the front runner. The other candidates who are clearly going to be the front runner of their primaries, like obviously John Ossoff is the only candidate on his side. But like Keisha Lance Bottoms, those two candidates I've had negative things to say about, and this guy I'm overall pretty positive on, other than me just being a bit critical of his passive language about certain issues. But I mean, overall he's still got a pretty good platform that obviously will, pave the path to further, action in the future if he wins. So it's a step in the right direction. The other candidate was Seth Clark. I didn't put anything down for him because he withdrew. So he's not in the race anymore. So it's just Josh now on the Democrat side. So Yeah, let's get to the Republican candidates. First up, we got Steve Gooch. He's the former majority leader in the Georgia State Senate. He is still in the Senate. He represents District 51 and has been in there since 2011. Well, let me drink my Capri Sun. You're never too old for one of these. It's the Moon one. Moon Punch. Been in there since 2011. He is a full MAGA conservative. He has called the Atlanta Journal-Constitution liberal. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the same newspaper that used to call for the lynching of black people 100 years ago, he called that institution liberal. He is making it a point to secure the border, despite us not being a border state. That's like the one thing I've been confused about, because Brian Kemp campaigned on this, Marjorie Taylor Greene campaigned on this, all these different Georgia representatives campaigned on this. They're like, we gotta secure the border. We're not even a border state. What are we securing the border from? You know, like what? People coming in on a boat in Savannah? Like, what are we securing the border from? I just don't get that campaign message. You know, it's just a buzzword to activate all the MAGA people to be like, yes, we need to kill all brown people that don't look like us and have slight Hispanic accents. Like, you know, that's how it works. It just activates something in them. Like the Manchurian Candidate. They're like, yes, sir. We will round up all the Mexicans and deport them. Yes, sir. He is pro-life. As you know, I always put the life part in quotations because they support the birth, but they don't support the aftermath. He wants to abolish the state income tax. Now, I've seen this a lot across a decent amount of the candidates on this list, is that they want to abolish the state income tax. Now, that might sound nice to a lot of people. You're like, oh, I might get a few extra bucks. And keep in mind, the state income tax is like 5%. Like it, or something even like marginal. It's like under 10%, I'm pretty sure. You really don't pay that much in state taxes here. But the little that you do pay does add up across everybody. And it leads to us being able to, support infrastructure, especially in rural areas. We're able to support infrastructure, able to support public services like EMS and law enforcement. You know, because I know a lot of MAGA people care about that. Literally anything that the state government does is supported by state income taxes to some extent. And so if we get rid of the state income tax, well, later on down the line, they're probably going to go, well, now we need to increase the local, all your local municipalities probably go, we need to increase the local sales tax. And so you're not getting anything out of that. Like, it's temporarily like, yeah, you get a few extra bucks on every check. But at the end of the day, your taxes are still going to go up in other areas. You just don't know it yet. And your infrastructure is going to get worse. All those potholes you see that are now going to start cropping up everywhere, and they're not getting fixed, and it's tearing up your tires. Well, now you got to get a new tire. Was that state income tax being waived worth it? Because now you got to replace your tires. Now you got to fix your suspension or your shocks or something. It's just not a good idea to get rid of the state income tax. I'm friends with people that are against having the state income tax. I think it's a necessary thing. It's a necessary evil where we need it to fund certain state level projects and stuff like that. But it would be devastating to get rid of something like that. So I don't support getting rid of the state income tax. Sorry. That's why I don't support getting rid of the federal income tax either. I mean, if you want the brokest government on earth, if you want the national debt to skyrocket like $3 trillion a week, go for it. Get rid of the federal income tax. But if you want, our country to not completely plunge as fast as it already is, maybe keep the federal income tax around. It's the same thing with the state income tax. We can't rely on the federal grants and funding that we get alone. We can't rely on, state sales tax or whatever. You can't rely on that. You've got to have a stable income tax, so you guaranteed have funding on everything. It's not guaranteed people are going to buy enough stuff to meet the budget amount on sales tax alone. So, income tax is your most stable way of taxing the people of Georgia. And if you want to do away with the sales tax or make it lower, sure, you can make the sales tax lower. But you shouldn't be getting rid of the income tax. Obviously he's pro Second Amendment. He's pro school choice. This is something I'm against. Simply for the fact that it's fear mongering. It's literally, oh, you don't want your kid to go to school in like a black neighborhood. Then, oh, well then just change him to another school in the public school system. If you want to send your kid to private school, that's your choice, I guess. But the pro school choice thing applies to being able to change public schools, basically sending your kid to a school outside your school district. And it's really gross because it is quite literally used as a way to be like, oh, you're rich and you want to go live in a poor area, but you don't want your kid to be around the poors. Just change their school. And it leads to a lot of issues, there's a lot of issues with like school funding and property taxes and all this stuff. It's a whole thing where it just disrupts everything. If you don't want your kid to go to that school, live in a different area. Go live in a different area. So, he's in favor of a radical one-strike law. Now that's me editorializing. I'm the one that put radical on there. But if you've ever heard of the Florida Three Strikes Law, it's basically if you commit a felony like 3 times, you go to jail pretty much for the rest of your life, or at least for a large chunk of time. This is a lot of people that get charged with drug felonies have this, or they get charged with assault felonies, and this happens. Now, the 3 strikes law is already pretty harsh. And it's very predatory on the low-income communities. It's very predatory on them. It's predatory towards marginalized communities who get over-policed. And it's really just a trap. I mean, especially if you're, over-policing areas that are primarily people of color. It's really just a trap. But he's in favor of a one-strike law, which is just you get one violent felony and you're out. I think it was just a normal felony. I don't even think it had to be violent. I think it's just if you got any felony, you're out, dog. Like, you're going to jail for the rest of your life. It's pretty weird. I don't really support something like that, obviously. And he's heavily pro-ICE. I mean, if the immigration thing wasn't already enough to go off of, just know he's pro-ICE, as if you needed to be told that. But this is the big thing, and I wanted to save this one for the very end of me talking about him. In 2024, he co-sponsored Senate Bill 390. This would stop funding libraries affiliated with a nonprofit organization called the American Library Association. This is due to the American Library Association appointing a somewhat liberal-appearing president. And that's it. That's it. They called the Library Association woke, and then they drafted up that bill. But keep that bill in mind. Just keep it in mind while we go through the rest of this. Our next candidate is Greg Dolezal. He's a Georgia State Senator from District 27, has been in the Senate since 2019. Now, the previous candidate I just talked about, Steve Gooch, made Dolezal the deputy whip in the state Senate. If you didn't know, Steve Gooch was the majority whip in the state Senate. And he had to step down from that position because he's running for office, and you can't be the whip if you're running for office. And while he was in the state Senate, he made Dolezal the deputy whip. They're pretty aligned on many issues. But Dolezal signed a petition in 2020 supporting the Georgia General Assembly's right to overrule the outcome of democratic elections in the state. He's essentially arguing that the Georgia state legislature should be allowed to overturn the results of democratic elections in the state. So if you vote for the governor and the Democrat wins, he's saying that the Georgia state legislature should have the power to overturn that. See how kind of corrupt that would be? Obviously, I don't support that. I think it should just stick to like an independent election commission and not be the state assembly's job to, dictate who wins the next election and surpass democratic rule. He's a bit corrupt. He has a lot of business connections, which shows you that he's probably voting on legislation that would directly affect this. He's the founder of Renewed Vision. It's a live production software company that works with Chick-fil-A and Mercedes-Benz. Do you think that he probably signs legislation that is in favor of those types of corporations because of his close business relationship with them? This just means I'm just saying I support making it illegal for any representative anywhere in the country to hold on to their business. You should have to put your businesses in a trust the same way that the president is supposed to do so. That way you don't have any conflict of interest. Now here's a big one. In 2024, Greg Dolezal co-sponsored Senate Bill 390, which would stop funding libraries affiliated with the nonprofit organization, the American Library Association. Now this is because they appointed a somewhat liberal-seeming president. So, basically they're calling it woke and then drafting up legislation to stop funding it. Sound familiar? I thought so. The next candidate on this list is the former president pro tempore of the Georgia State Senate. He was in the state Senate from 2015 to 2025, and he was representative of District 18. His name is John F. Kennedy. I'm not joking. His name is John F. Kennedy. Insane. This guy's an interesting one. I think he's literally only tied up in the polls with everybody else because of his name. He's another situation where he can't be the president pro tempore of the state senate if he's running for office. That's why he's no longer in the state senate. But his name is JFK. I mean, that's the most notable thing about him, is that John F. Kennedy is running for lieutenant governor in the state of Georgia. What a sentence. I didn't know we had a state senator named John F. Kennedy. That's so crazy. He's aligned with pretty much everything Brian Kemp represents. So if you know what Brian Kemp's positions are, you know what his are. Very pro large corporations, has done a lot of work that's in favor of large corporations in the state. And he's pro school choice. He said, as state leaders, we have no greater responsibility than the future of our children. There's no question that starts in our classrooms, which must be focused on educating students to find a rewarding career, not indoctrinating them with radical political ideologies. I will always ensure our teachers are able to teach our kids, our kids are able to learn, and our parents are able to support them both. He's essentially saying that parents should have heavy say in what teachers teach kids in the school. And so let's say a teacher goes, hey, slavery was kind of bad. Some lost causer, his grandpappy fought in the Civil War 150 years ago, can step in and be like, I don't agree with you teaching my kid radical liberal ideology. The Civil War was about states' rights, and that was it. And slavery really wasn't that bad. The slaves kind of liked it, actually, because we gave them jobs, and they actually kind of liked it. That's essentially what he's supporting here, is the parents' right to step in and say that bullshit. Because they've grown up through 15 generations Sorry, let me not hyperbole here. They've grown up through 4 generations of lost cause myth from their great great grandparents who got their slaves taken away and had to actually start working for a living. So that's what he wants. Is he wants input from parents like that. He's also very pro police. Duh. Lastly, though, the big one is in 2024, JFK co-sponsored Senate Bill 390, which would stop funding libraries affiliated with nonprofit organization, the American Library Association. This is because they chose a slightly liberal appearing president. Start to see the theme here. 3 of the candidates that I've mentioned so far co-sponsored Senate Bill 390. These are Ron DeSantis style Republicans, where they want to kill public funding for libraries, a place where kids can go and learn, have access to the internet, have access to resources, be able to read books, get smarter, because the smarter your population is, the less they're going to buy the Republican bullshit. That is why these people don't like funding libraries. It has nothing to do with the president of the ALA is just a scapegoat. They were just looking for a reason to attack him. They are cutting funding for libraries in the state of Georgia because they don't like a smarter population. The dumber the population is, the more they can pull the wool over your eyes and get away with it too. The death of critical thinking is the ultimate end goal of the Republican Party and of just neoliberal politics in general. Because if they can get you that stupid, eventually it'll lead to a world where it's corporations running the show. As if they don't already. But it would be full corporate takeover. And they can essentially enslave you at that point. That is the whole end goal of the Republican project. So just keep that in mind when these disgusting monsters are passing legislation that, directly destroys public knowledge and public funding of education. Let's talk about our last Republican candidate I'm going to go in depth on, because there's a few more. I'll do them honorable mentions. David Clark, Brenda Nelson Porter, and Takosha Swan are the other 3 candidates, but they're not polling very high, so they're probably not going to win the primary. But this is the 4th candidate, and he's polling about the same with the other 3. And he's a Georgia State Senator from District 19 from 2017 to now. In 2025, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, who's the current Lieutenant Governor, he appointed Blake Tillery, the person I'm talking about. Forgot to mention his name. Blake Tillery was appointed to chair the Senate Special Committee on Eliminating Georgia's Income Tax. As you can see, him and Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones are pretty buddy-buddy with each other. And it seems that that's the one that they want to win. It kind of seems like this is the candidate that they want, that they have the most faith in. He is the chair of the Georgia, eliminating the Georgia's state income tax. He produced Senate Bill 476 and 477. 476 would eliminate the income tax for people earning under $50K a year and couples earning under $100K a year. He would then reduce rates for high earners to 4.99%. Senate Bill 477 would then adjust the 4.99% to 3.99% by 2028, with plans for total elimination by 2032. Both of these bills passed the Senate. He passed Senate Bill 21, which essentially eliminates sanctuary cities. He passed Senate Bill 39, which bars state health plans, Medicaid, and prisons from covering gender-affirming care. In 2024, he co-sponsored Senate Bill 390, which would stop funding libraries affiliated with nonprofit organization, the American Library Association. That's candidate number 4 that supports cutting funding to libraries. This guy is probably the most consequential and destructive candidate on the list. He probably has the most qualifications. Like, he has the biggest rap sheet of all the candidates, right? He seems to have done more important work for the Republican Party than anyone else. And that makes him a little dangerous. Now, you know, I don't like his plan for eliminating the state income tax, obviously. I think it's really destructive, yet again, to get rid of the state income tax. I don't mind paying it if it means that my roads aren't going to be destroyed. If it means the state will keep functioning like normal. There is something interesting about this guy. In 2016, on April 11th, this is like a year before he was in the state Senate, Tillery was driving. And while driving, he struck and killed a 44-year-old cyclist, Bunji Mark Takaya. I hope I said that name right. Now you might be thinking, holy shit, this dude ran over and killed a cyclist, and he still won the state Senate election? I know. But you have to remember, this is the era of the first Trump administration. Trump had destroyed all norms. You know, it's not that hard to believe that you can kill somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it as a Republican. So, yes, him running over and killing a 44-year-old cyclist, you can still win an election on that, I guess. But here's the weird part. The GSP found texts that were received on Tillery's phone at the time of the crash, meaning that he could have been texting. Toxicology showed that he had cough medication in his system, and he told GSP he had been operating on quote-unquote limited sleep. After passing through multiple prosecuting departments, no charges were ever filed. They never filed charges. This man got away with murder. He got away with killing a cyclist. Dude, he got away with running over and killing a cyclist. The Georgia Department of Public Safety then, 5 years later, destroyed the case file, citing standard record retention policy. Now, would the Georgia Department of Public Safety be doing that for anybody else, following record retention policy? Or were they just doing that because this guy at this point was a prominent state senator with a lot of pull? Who knows? Who knows? I certainly don't know. Anyway, that is the Georgia Lieutenant Governor's race. Whoever wins, I have no idea. I really don't. The next episode will probably be the Georgia ballot initiatives, and then after that will be an episode about the primary results. God, the whistle in between my fucking teeth, bro. A big gap. The next episode after that one will be the Georgia primary results, and then I might give like another update video on the race as things really get going closer to the election, and then I will give a election results video. If there's a runoff, I might do a runoff video too, but we'll see. The runoff might be more of just a passing mention, but I have a feeling the Senate race will be the major runoff election. But yeah, that's the lieutenant governor's race. So go out and vote in the primary for Georgia. It's in May. You can go to the Georgia voter. Here's the thing that a lot of people don't know. You can go to the Georgia voter registration website, right? It's like my voter information. You can type in your information. It'll tell you, it's a government website. It'll tell you if you're registered, if your registration's active. Check it. If it's not, register. I don't know if the deadline's already passed for the primary yet, but at least register so you can vote in the general. But make sure your registration's active. It'll tell you your polling station. But the most important part is it'll have sample ballots. Well, obviously, it'll have dates on when the primary is, but it'll have a sample ballot. You can open that up and you can see what your voting options are. It'll show you your local representative, your local state senator. It'll show you the candidates in the primary. Right now, it'll be the primary ballots. I know because I've looked. There's a Democrat and a Republican one, and then there's an independent one as well. And yeah, go on there, see what you got as options. And if there's ballot provisions on there, it'll say them on there. That way you can research them ahead of time, so you're not blindsided. Dusty as hell. So you're not blindsided by the information that you see on the screen when you get to the poll. That way, if you want to know things about like the homestead tax exemption, you can look it up before you go, and now you know it'll be on the ballot. So yeah, go to the Georgia voter registration page and check your voter status, and check out the sample ballot. I've used it every election. I've used it so I can see what I've got going on before I get to the polls. So that, and so I can make sure I'm still like a valid voter. I don't know. You never know in this state if your voter registration is just going to get axed or not. That, and also I've been checking it a lot recently because I had to make sure my address was accurate on it. Because I did move. So, yeah. Go check that out. If you want to support this podcast, you can go to patreon.com/forbiddenlandpod. If you want to listen to this podcast on audio-only platforms, you can go to, YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, and even the Samsung Fridge. All right, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll see you guys on Friday with a fun little with a fun little new thing I've put on here. It's so stupid, but I moved heaven and the earth to get this to work, so I hope it works fine when I do it in the main episode. So all right, see you guys Friday. Peace.